Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. GH spoilers, is Molly and TJ's first surrogate still carrying their baby? According to General Hospital spoilers, Molly Lansing Davis and TJ Ashford have split up. For a while, we pondered about their first surrogate, Andrea Gates, and how their lives would be complicated if she surreptitiously absconded with their kid on board and is now parenting him or her as her own. It's going to be even more problematic now that it's TJ's baby, even though it's not Molly's legal or biological child. How would she react to the news that the kid she was intended to have was born, and how might her chances of becoming its mother be jeopardized because she is no longer with the father? A chance meaning TJ's most likely means of discovering he is a father is difficult to imagine. It's probable that Molly or he will meet Andrea somewhere with the child. It's also feasible that TJ, as a doctor at GH, will stumble across them during a medical emergency. Andrea may even contact him because his child has a medical need that requires knowledge about TJ's medical history or to request a favor, such as an organ or bone marrow transplant. We've seen it before. Andrea wanted a baby. What would make this even more intriguing is if Molly happened upon Andrea and the child who is actually Andrea's biological child. How would Molly feel if Andrea stole their dream away in that way, carrying the baby to term and raising TJ's son or daughter without him? Andrea's claim that she had a husband and a child may not be accurate. Perhaps she merely wanted a baby and the means to provide for it. Molly and TJ handed her that. Molly could keep this secret. Had Andrea followed through on their agreement, they would not have had to scurry to find another surrogate, would not have picked Christina Corinthos Davis, and would have never lost their baby that way. There would be no perpetual trauma. Her bond with her sister would likely remain intact, as would her domestic partnership with TJ. Will Molly's months of suppressed sadness ultimately come to the surface, forcing her to withhold the truth about TJ's biological kid from Andrea? Did Tracy just reveal a major General Hospital spoiler? Is Dylan's agreement due? Tracy from General Hospital hasn't remembered having a son other than Ned for a long time. She talked more about Violet, Sasha, and Cody than she did about Dylan. But she has another son. She recently remembered his name as Dylan. And this would be the ideal opportunity to bring him back to Port Charles. Here is why. My right-hand Tracy's son was a terrible mother to Ned. She sent him to boarding school whenever possible. Tracy promised to do a better job with Dylan. She tried for a few years while he was a youngster. But, once he stopped being charming and started having opinions, that was the end of it. Dylan was also shipped out, and he only reunited with his mother in Port Charles as a teenager. He ended up sleeping with Lulu. She became pregnant, and subsequently had an abortion. And that was the end of it. Dylan returned a few years later, and after some activity with Luke, he attempted to entice Lulu away from her husband. He failed. Despite her feelings for Dante, Lulu is unable to progress in their relationship. If Dylan returned to town, he'd be a welcome distraction. Their adolescent fling never got to go somewhere. And then she married for the last time. She is now free. And Dylan, apparently. So, why not? Added bonus, now it's time for the truly insane twist. Remember how Helena said she took Lulu's egg to produce Charlotte with Valentine? So, what if Helena lied? She does that. A lot. What if Helena didn't steal Lulu's egg? But Lulu's fetus was aborted? What? All my children stated that it was technically conceivable more than 20 years before Lulu had her abortion. And because we know AMC and GH are set in the same universe, we know Helena would have access to it. So Charlotte is not Lulu's daughter, but Dylan's. This makes her Tracy's grandchild. Now, let the fun begin. GH spoilers for Monday, February 10th, questions, apologies, and warnings. General Hospital spoilers for Monday, February 10th include inquiries, apologies, and warnings. Christina Corinthos Davis has inquiries, Jocelyn Jacks apologizes, and Rick Lansing issues a warning. Christina has questions for Ava Jerome. Christina has questions for Ava Jerome as they appear to be outside, with Christina blocking Ava from entering a building. Christina leaps forward into Ava's path, saying, "I'm sorry, where do you think you're going?" There's a significant likelihood Ava was looking for Avery Jerome Corinthos, who is currently under Christina's care. Christina is well aware of the custody battle between Ava and her father, Sonny Corinthos, over Avery. Christina would not let Ava close her tiny sister while her father is on his way back from California. Jocelyn offers an apology elsewhere. Jocelyn tells someone, "I'm going to offer you an apology," and she tries to be serious and credible. Perhaps she's seen Cyrus Renaud and is trying to throw him off the track so he doesn't realize she's following him? It appears that no matter who urges her to stop her research, she will simply do her own thing. Even her mother is unaware that Jack Brennan is including her in a quest for Cyrus hiding. It's also feasible that she's speaking with the resident of the house that is considered to be Cyrus' hideout, in which case they'll pretend to be innocent. Rick issues a warning to Elizabeth Baldwin, warned or not, he's a dangerous man. It's probable he's referring to Cyrus, Elizabeth, and Lucky Spencer's probe of him. Rick knows enough about Cyrus Renaud to know that even if he hadn't been advised to stay away from patients at GH and Turning Woods, he would still be hazardous. Unfortunately, the prohibitions he's received have made him even more so, and when he arrived at the hospital, he saw Elizabeth and Lucas Jones talking in the corridor. The evil glare he gave Elizabeth, recalling the relocated withered flower from his Bible, suggests she may be next on his kill list. Martin Gray has questions for Willow Corinthos. In the meantime, he's meeting with her at Café Sherry. He is taken aback by Willow's plea, asking her, "Do you really want a divorce?" She appears to be moving rapidly to make things official with Drew Quartermaine, as New York does not allow for hasty divorces. Not to mention that Michael Corinthos is in a burn facility in Baden-Baden, Germany, with no timetable for his release. This appears to force his hand in signing divorce papers without even allowing him to speak for himself in court. It's a hard pass. It appears that Martin and Willow are not the only ones at Café Sherry, as an irritated Sasha Corbin refuses to stay. She confronts Cody Bell and Felicia Scorpio, possibly still angry at Cody for spreading false information throughout town. She is upset, saying, "Forgive me for giving, whatever, this is a hard pass." She then turns around and walks out the door. Sasha presumably tried to save Felicia what she actually intended to say by calling it whatever. It will be a long time before she can stand being around blabbermouth Cody. Meanwhile, back at the Quartermaine home, Jason Morgan has returned from Baden-Baden and is currently having it out with Tracy Quartermaine. The apparent topic of conversation is Cody's ignorance and disinformation regarding Jason fathering Sasha's child, which Drew boasted to Tracy in a very public situation. He is obviously taken aback and irritated, asking her why she would trust anything Drew said. It's difficult to determine what Jason is thinking other that Drew was lying, yet he may be aware Cody witnessed and heard some of his and Sasha's talk at the boathouse. Sasha wanted Jason to feel her baby kick for the first time that night, right as Cody approached the corner. How far will Nina go? Carly Spencer seemed to be rethinking Nina Reeves' plea that they work together to break up Drew and Willow. Carly wants to know how far Nina will go to get Drew out of the picture. Nina had urged her to help her break up the two of them because she had also been unable to keep them apart. It appears that Carly is considering proposing a huge scheme. But how far would Nina go? Would she acknowledge Drew was two-timing them with each other? Curtis moved through General Hospital's crowded corridors, surrounded by the repetitive beeping of monitors and the continuous hum of activity. He wasn't come for himself, or to check up on Portia. Trina had contacted him earlier, asking him to meet her buddy Kai, who had recently had an injury and was struggling to cope. Curtis, who was always prepared to be there for his stepdaughter, consented without hesitation. As he approached Kai's room, Curtis noticed Portia standing near the nurse's station, flipping through a patient file. He paused briefly before approaching her. "Hey," he said. Portia looked up, slightly astonished, but politely smiled. "Hey. What are you doing here?" Curtis cast a glimpse toward Kai's room. "Trina requested me to come chat to her friend and check on him. I thought I'd pop by and say hello to you as well." Before Portia could react, Brad Cooper appeared out of nowhere, approaching her with a grin on his face. Dr. Robinson, might I leave a little earlier today? My personal trainer has squeezed me in for an extra session, and I don't want to miss it. Portia pursed her lips. That's not a lot of notice, Brad. I understand. But if I can find someone to cover for me, will that be acceptable? She groaned, looking at the clock, and nodded. Fine, but make sure everything is in order before you go. Brad cracked a joke. You've got it, boss. Curtis arched an eyebrow as Brad walked away, then returned his attention to his wife. I thought you couldn't stand that guy. Portia breathed. I don't know, but Stella seems to like him. She constantly tells me to give folks a second chance, so I'm trying. Curtis shook his head. That does not imply I shouldn't speak with him. Brad's got a history, and I don't want you or Stella to become involved in anything because of him. Portia scowled. That's not necessary, Curtis. But Curtis wasn't listening. He was already on his way to Brad. Meanwhile, Lucas Jones was walking Carly to the elevator, his look solemn as he attempted to make his point. Just think about what I said, Carly, he told you. Carly crossed her arms and gave him an annoyed expression. Lucas, I understand your worry, but I am well. And no matter what you say, I'm not going to stop seeing Jack. Lucas sighed, knowing that he couldn't change her mind. Fine. Let us just go to dinner. Finally, Carly mumbled. But before they could depart, Lucas remembered something. I only need to drop off my tablet at the nurse's station. Give me a second. As they approached the station, Brad was there, conversing animatedly with Stella Henry and rolling up his sleeve to show off his biceps. Check it out, Stella, he said, flexing. Isn't it quite impressive? Stella chuckled. I must admit, you're looking good, Brad. Lucas, unable to resist, added, yeah, whatever you're doing, it's working. Carly, less amused, cleared her throat loudly and glared at Lucas. Can we leave now? Lucas gave Brad one last glance before following Carly out of the hospital. Curtis discovered Brad in a quieter spot and wasted no time. I need to know if you're still working with Selena Wu. Brad froze briefly before shaking his head. No. My aunt and I are no longer conducting business together. Curtis observed him closely. You should be telling the truth. Brad raised his hands. The last thing I want is for Portia or Stella to be dragged into something because of you. I swear, Curtis. I would not endanger the second chance I've been given. Curtis nodded curtly and moved away, satisfied for the time being. Later, he spoke with Stella, who was still persuaded Brad had turned a new leaf. People can change, she reassured him. Maybe it's time you started believing that. Curtis wasn't convinced. Meanwhile, at Bobby's, Brennan had barely settled into a table when Jocelyn Jacks approached. Have you had any luck finding anything linking Cyrus to Dex's death? He asked. Joss sighed and sat into the seat across from him. I thought I had a lead, but it didn't pan out. Don't give up, Brennan said. I'm not, she told him. I actually broke into Cyrus' home, but there was nothing there. There was no evidence, no personal stuff, and nothing to prove he even lived there. Brennan leaned nearer. That means he's working from somewhere else. Joss blinked. So, a hideout? Exactly. Each criminal leaves a trail. You simply have to be patient. She paused and then shifted the subject. You and my mother are close, right? Brendan nodded. Yeah. Why? Joss hesitated again before replying. Please do not tell her about this. She's stressed enough, Brennan said, smiling slightly. You have my word. At that point, Carly and Lucas entered the diner. Carly's gaze was drawn quickly to Joss and Brennan, and suspicion crossed her features. What are they talking about? She whispered to Lucas. Brennan hastily covered up after detecting Carly's scrutiny. I was just telling Joss about the thermal baths in Germany. Carly didn't completely buy it, but let it go. She was more concentrated on Jack. Didn't you tell Joss about Valentine? Jack shook his head. No. She exhaled, relieved. Thank you. I don't want her to worry about me. Jack's eyes softened. I'll never forget that you saved my life, Carly. Carly smiled slightly. Germany was unforgettable. Jack said with a smile. Do you think we can top it? Carly lifted her eyebrow. You consider that a challenge, don't you? Jack only smirked. Meanwhile, at the counter, Lucas saw Joss' fixation on her phone. What are you looking up? He asked. Dr. Joss muttered, Austin Gatlinholt. Lucas frowned. Never heard of him. Joss soon filled him in. He testified at Cyrus' parole hearing. Lucas' face clouded. Joss, Cyrus is hazardous. You don't want to be on his radar. She swore not to do anything reckless. But Lucas was unconvinced. Joss returned to Jack as soon as Carly went away to take a phone call. Can you find out if Austin purchased or leased a house near Port Charles around the time Cyrus was released from prison? Jack nodded. I'll look into it. Joss smiled gratefully. Brooklyn Quartermain continued to pace at the Quartermain gatehouse, guilt gnawing at her. Gio showed up with one of Amelia's toys. Brooklyn moaned, I just found this outside. You missed Willow. Gio scowled. She took the kids to Nina's. Why? Brooklyn exhaled. Due to me. I thought a little tough love would help, but I made it worse. Gio inclined his head. Willow will come around. Brooklyn wasn't so sure. Tracy entered and said, Where's Willow? Brooklyn hesitated before adding, She moved out with the kids. Tracy's face stiffened. I knew it wouldn't last. Brooklyn grumbled. It's time to call the lawyers. That's unnecessary, Tracy said, but she had already dialed. Chad Duell, a General Hospital alum, is afraid of getting married. This General Hospital alum appears to be preparing to make some significant life adjustments. Chad Duell, well known for his role as Michael Corinthos on the hit ABC soap General Hospital, is rumored to be preparing to marry his partner, Luana Garcia. Luana is a flight attendant and Chad's baby mom. They welcomed a son last year. And, while Luana appears to be content with their small family life, there is some suggestion that Chad may not be ready to move on. That's because the timing is all off. After all, he recently departed his employment at General Hospital, much to the disappointment of his followers. Many people were heartbroken when he left Chad behind, despite the fact that he had played the character for more than 15 years. But now that he has no work lined up and no consistent income, Michael is probably waiting till the appropriate time to ask Luana the all-important question. That or he may not be thinking about it at all. That is because some people have noted that Michael does not appear to be as joyful as he once was. It could be work stress, or it could be that juggling his new family life has put a strain on him as well. General Hospital news, what's next for Chad Duell? However, if Chad decides to make things official with his girlfriend, his General Hospital followers would undoubtedly be overjoyed. If he could simply return to the program, everything would be fine in the world. GH spoilers, is Snoop Dogg about to shake things up in Port Charles? According to General Hospital teasers and updates, Snoop Dogg may shake things up in Port Charles at some point in the future. While on the Jennifer Hudson show with numerous other GH stars, Donnell Turner told Hudson that he had met Snoop and would like to come on the serial. The Dogfather of Cool wants to appear on the ABC soap. Many well-known actors, including John Stamos and Demi Moore, have risen to new heights of stardom following their appearances on the show. Janine Turner, who played Jackie I's sister Laura Templeton, rose to prominence on television, as did Rick Springfield and Ricky Martin in music. However, over the years, the soap has attracted a slew of high-profile celebrities eager to make guest appearances, including James Franco and the iconic Elizabeth Taylor. Recently, some cast members appeared on the Jennifer Hudson show, where Donnell Turner mentioned that one celebrity is interested in joining the group for a guest star role in this renowned series. Snoop Dogg, also known as the Dogfather of Cool, has previously appeared on an ABC serial opera. Snoop Dogg knows Frank Valentini. Donnell wrote, Snoop is just as cool as you'd expect. He knows my boss, and said, Frank Valentini, oh man, I love Frank, make sure to tell him, what's up? In response, Turner encouraged Snoop to deliver the message himself, inviting the rapper to come on over here and join us. Co-star Laura Wright chimed in, that would be incredible. Turner elaborated, I discussed it with Frank, and we made some attempts, but then Snoop got tied up, so let's keep our hopes up. Finola Hughes added that having Snoop Dogg on the show would be such a blast. Notably, Snoop previously appeared in the 2013 reboot of One Life to Live, and we can see Snoop Dogg doing his thing at the Savoy. Despite the fact that Curtis is now the CEO of Aurora Media, he still owns the Savoy, which is still a busy spot. It's likely that he has someone running it. Just because his father, Marshall Ashford, went on tour with Wynton Marsalis does not imply that he sold his nightclub because he was unavailable to handle it in Curtis' absence. Snoop making one or more visits at the Savoy would be an excellent showcase for his abilities and a huge draw for Curtis Club. Despite the fact that Snoop's appearances would most likely be as guests, he expressed an interest in appearing in the show. So it doesn't rule out Snoop being a manager and nightly club talent at Curtis' popular club. We can hope, right? What happened to Nurse Amy at General Hospital? Nurse Amy Driscoll has been a recurrent character on General Hospital since she was originally introduced in May 2016. However, some longtime soap viewers may be puzzled, as GH also had a Nurse Amy in the 1980s. But that was Amy Vining, portrayed by the late Shel Kepler. Risa Dorkin plays the new Nurse Amy, who, like her namesake, has a lively personality and enjoys hospital gossip. Amy was introduced while working at the hospital and talking with Maxie Jones. It was later revealed that Amy and Maxie attended high school together, but Maxie was a witch who kicked Amy off the cheerleading team. She also knew Dylan Quartermain from school. Amy, as a nurse at GH, also performed at the yearly Nurses' Ball, both in a group number with the other nursing staff and in other routines. Amy disguised herself as a man and produced an advice column called Ask Manlanders to supplement her nursing income. But when Amy received a book deal, she worried and urged Nathan West to be the face of Manlanders. Nathan reluctantly consented, and spending so much time with Amy strained his new marriage to Maxie. Later, Amy's brother, Chet Driscoll, arrived in Port Charles and was hospitalized for an overdose. Amy admitted that she devised the entire Manlanders ruse to assist pay for her siblings' rehabilitation and get Chet off narcotics. Amy is frequently seen at hospitals working with patients, such as when she assisted Franco Baldwin in recovering from a stabbing by Ryan Chamberlain. She is also known to give her all during her performances at the hospital's annual Nurses' Ball. Amy ran with old acquaintance Brooke Lynn Ashton in October 2020, who persuaded her to be the voice on the new single to promote Deception because she couldn't sing after Nelly slit her neck. Amy reluctantly agreed and even stepped in to supply vocals as Brooke Lynn lip-synced during a presentation, but everything went wrong when their lie was revealed. She has remained to work at the hospital, despite all of the cuts made when Cyrus Renaud temporarily took over. Nina Reeves distracted Amy in December 2021, allowing Sasha Gilmore and Brando Corbin to visit their newborn son in the NICU. And around Valentine's Day 2022, she wanted to make sure everything was fine between Dr. Hamilton Finn and Elizabeth Weber, while also concerned about Chet's lack of recent contact with anyone. She also told Dr. Terry Randolph that she did not believe Brad Cooper should be allowed to return to work at the hospital, but Terry reminded her that it was not her decision and instructed her to go back to work. Amy later believed Terry was picking on her and threatened to file a complaint with Monica Quartermain. When she discovered that Chet and Terry were dating, she applied for a job in Chicago on her brother's behalf in an attempt to break them up. However, after he received it, she felt horrible and confessed, despite Terry's encouragement for Chet to accept the position. Amy returned to the stage in April 2023 to perform among the other nurses at the annual Nurses' Ball. During various periods of the year, I was admonished for gossiping about the staff and disclosing patient information. As one of the nurses that participated in Finn's patient's care, she was involved when the man's family sued him for negligence. Jack Brennan proceeded carefully through the densely wooded outskirts of town, his eyes surveying the surroundings with an expert's vision. He was not alone. Colette Gerard followed a few steps behind him, her movements as light as his, her stance deceptively serene in the face of the tension sizzling between them. Did you find it? Brennan inquired, his voice low, as he focused on the seemingly abandoned house hidden among the trees. Colette smirked. Do you doubt me? She teased, but her words had a sharp edge. Brennan hardly glanced at her before taking a step forward to examine the construction. Cyrus Renault's little hideaway, he mumbled. She nodded. I completed a sweep. It's undeniably his, but you already knew that. What I don't get is why you aren't calling the PCPD. Brennan finally turned, his gaze keen. Because that is not the point, Colette. I'd like to see if Jocelyn finds it herself, Colette said, folding her arms. Are you really serious about this? What about her? I wouldn't have brought her in if I wasn't. She's green, Colette observed. Brennan's jaws constricted. She is smart. And driven. She has the instincts. She is also irresponsible, Colette responded. That's the part you seem to be ignoring. Brennan's eyes twinkled with amusement. That's what makes this a test. Colette rolled her eyes but did not protest. Instead, she glanced back to the hideout, her expression unreadable. But Brennan noticed her hesitation and the small flutter of her fingers at her sides. He knew her too well to ignore the subtle indications that she was concealing something. You've been acting strange, he added after a pause. Colette raised an eyebrow. Strange? Sketchy, he replied. She gave a quick laugh. That's rich coming from you. I trust you, Brennan answered calmly, but I don't trust secrets. Colette's smirk faded somewhat. For a brief moment, he thought she may reveal what she was hiding. But then she groaned heavily and shook her head. You worry too much, Jack. Brennan did not press further, but the doubt lingered. After all, Colette had a knack of blurring the lines between friend and foe. Jocelyn Jacks has been sneaking around where she wasn't meant to be before. It probably won't be the last. As she got closer to Cyrus Renault's alleged refuge, she kept her breathing steady and her actions deliberate. If Brennan was correct, as she thought, this was where Cyrus did his true business. What about the flat she had previously broken into? That had been a deception. This place? It was the real stuff. She looked over her shoulder once before bending low and making her way to the entrance. A part of her understood she was playing with fire. Another part of her did not care. She sought justice. For Dexter. For all the individuals Cyrus had injured. She was not stupid enough to believe she could defeat him on her own, but she could acquire information. And right now, that's exactly what she intended to do. But when she reached for the handle, a voice broke through the hush. You have guts, child. I'll give you that. Jocelyn whirled around, her heart racing. Colette Gerard stood a few steps away, arms crossed and her lips curved into a grin. But there was something unnerving about her eyes. Something made Jocelyn's stomach twist. You're either really brave, Colette said, taking a slow step closer, or really stupid. Jocelyn forced herself to maintain a neutral expression. What are you doing here? Colette tilted her head. I could ask you the same question. You already have the answer, Colette chuckled. Do you really believe you can outmaneuver someone like Cyrus? Jocelyn's jaw stiffened. I do not need to outmaneuver him. I just need to find out what he's up to. Colette sighed, almost sad. Brennan has really convinced you that you're prepared for this, huh? Jocelyn retorted. I don't need his approval. Colette looked at her for a time before shaking her head. You're a liability. Jocelyn's pulse hammered, but she fought to betray her anxiety. I don't trust you, she stated bluntly. Colette smirked. Good. That shows you're not completely clueless. Jocelyn didn't get the opportunity to react. An unexpected commotion from inside the hideout set her instincts into overdrive. There was someone in there. Colette's swift look toward the door indicated that she, too, had not expected company. Jocelyn did not wait. She moved quickly, slipping behind the trees before she was seen. Colette, to her credit, did not reveal her cover. Instead, she turned back toward the home, going inside as if she belonged. Jocelyn remained hidden, watching and waiting. Her instinct warned her something was wrong. And she was determined to find out what. Brennan disliked being left out of the loop. Especially not when it included Colette. What about right now? She was hiding something. He could feel it. The difficulty was, he didn't know what. Which meant he had to be cautious. Because, while he trusted her, he did not really trust her. Not anymore. What if she was playing her own game? He needed to know. Before it was too late. General Hospital spoilers, Dante thinks of Sam every time he sees Lulu. General Hospital spoilers indicate it's been difficult for him to go forward when all he wants to do is go back. About course, we're talking about Dante, who has made it apparent that he thinks about Sam every time he sees Lulu. General Hospital spoilers, Dante remembers Sam every time he sees Lulu. During the most recent episode of General Hospital, Alexis couldn't help but express her outrage over what had happened to Sam, while Dante tells Chase about his complicated feelings. Sure, he and Lulu had great chemistry when they were together all those years ago, but he knows it was even better when he was with Sam. As much as he wants to move on because it is the right thing to do, Dante is unable to let go of the past. He misses Sam a lot, but anyone who has been paying attention would already know. Of course, General Hospital fans have had plenty to say about the situation on social media. Some have even stated, "Oh man, Dante has gone through so much. I feel awful for him. Did you really have to kill Sam to do this?" Another critic wrote, "Dante is the only intriguing thing here. I enjoy Carly better with Jack than she has with anyone else in a while. Every time I look at Lulu, I will think about Sam and wish she wasn't Lulu." General Hospital spoilers, what's next for Dante? There was also this comment, feel for Alexis losing it after discovering Sam was murdered. It's not surprising that Dante thinks of Sam every time he looks at Lulu. Her murder has only exacerbated his grief. Tired of Carly's foolishness over Brennan and the nonsense he tells her. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, so please don't forget to subscribe my channel and don't miss any update.